Margaya is only worried about finance, money, how to grow financially strong. Dr. Paul literally went to one of the best pundits and got it done, or he himself did it. And Dr. Paul is a constant visitor to Balu now. The people believed he made money through shipments arriving at Madras port or Bombay. Now, hello, hi, namaste and welcome to Vidhyaashram, first grade college, the temple of excellence. I am Nandakishore, faculty of English in Vidhyaashram, MYSURU. In my previous session, I have discussed chapter 3 about the novel, The Financial Expert, prescribed to third semester BCom and B.B.A. MYSURU University students. In today's session, I am going to discuss chapter 4 about the novel, The Financial Expert. Before I proceed further, let me just give you a recap about chapter 3. In chapter 3, we get to see that Margaya and his wife learn that somebody had sent a letter saying that Balu, their son, is dead and Margaya is dumbstruck. And Meenakshi, she brings down the hell on earth and she demands that Margaya should immediately go to Madras where he is believed to be dead and bring back his dead body. And Margaya somehow manages to get on the train, and even then the readers get to know that how stingy he becomes and how much he cares for money. Instead of boarding the train into first class, he tries to buy the ticket even for the fourth class, which doesn't exist at all. And on the way towards Madras, he gets acquainted with one of the policemen and he helps him to get back Balu. Actually, Balu is not dead, right? After a few happenings, ups and downs in Balu's life and in Margaya's life, somehow Margaya convinces Balu to get back to Malgudi, and on the way back, there is a lot of conversation which happens, and Margaya promises that he is no longer going to pressurize his son Balu on studies. And Margaya also promises that you can just do whatever you want and you can eat and put on some weight. So let us see what happens in chapter 4 today. So Balu's daily routine. This is very important. Balu, after coming back to Malgudi, what he does is he just lives like a king. He gets up late in the morning. Margaya goes and wakes him up. He will have his breakfast. He goes out and he does whatever he wants. He does nothing much, but he sleeps on usually this veranda, and he comes back home at 1 o'clock. He will have his lunch, and late evenings he will puff cigarette. He will chew betel nuts, right? And there are a lot of stuffs he will do, but rather than doing something worthy, he goes on to put on weight by doing nothing. So Margaya is observing everything, and what he tells himself is, instead of leaving his son Balu to get rustic, he says that he's going to rust himself, in the sense like he's going to spoil himself. So rather than leaving him for himself, he thinks of marriage. Whose marriage? Balu's marriage. Now Margaya is thinking that Balu should be married, or else he will be spoiled completely. And while this is happening, Margaya is in office now, and he gets to see 3 villagers walking towards him, and they have the conversation, and they are there because they want money. They want somebody to lend them money, and what they do is, finally, after a lot of conversation, they carry 300 rupees, leaving the interest behind. This happenings is completely filled in the head of Margaya, and what he thinks is, if these kind of people are coming and going, maybe I can flourish even more in my business. At the sudden shift, now he thinks about Kanda. Remember, he is already introduced in chapter 1. He happens to own, he is the owner of Mempi Hills farmland, and Margaya is so fond of this Mempi Hills farm, this land. He wants to own a piece of land, and Kanda somehow happens to come back and pay the debt and clear the dues for Margaya. Kanda never gives the chance to Margaya like others, right? Where others will come and sign, give the property, give whatever they can pledge, and they will be in a position where they cannot repay Margaya and they lose their own property to Margaya. But Kanda is such a person who happens to come back on time. Somehow he manages to repay his debt. Now he is cribbing about Kanda. He scolds in his mind saying that Somehow Kanda is doing it. I don't know. I am pretty much fond of MP Hills. While this is happening, Margaya thinks about their forefathers' profession. Actually, they are called Corpse brothers. So what did their forefathers do? There were 3 brothers, and in their village, their forefathers, grandfathers, if there is any death in the village, they are the first ones to come and bury the body or burn the body and just put these ashes in the river. So they were basically Corpse brothers. And now he is thinking, after 3rd generation, 2 or 3 generations, Margaya is questioning himself, what would people think about me, about my status, about my son? Now, my son is 18 years old. He has to get married. If I go on searching for a proposal, what would people talk behind me or about me, on my face, whatever it might be? Don't they think about my grandfather's profession? And Margaya also recalls that after 2 or 3 generations, they happen to become agriculturists. Now Margaya is a sort of a businessman now. They have given up corpse or burning this dead bodies. Now after few years, maybe a generation later, they owned a piece of land. They started agriculture. Now Margaya may be the 3rd generation. Now he has become a sort of a businessman, entrepreneur. All this is put together in his mind. It's going on. It's a mixture of thoughts, and he's wondering what would people think. And there is one character he talks about, great aunt, and he remembers these words. It's written on their faces. Where can it go? Even if you allow 100 years to elapse. She would definitely tell this to Margaya and his family. That is what he believes, Margaya. And he says, it is written on their faces. It is their fate. It cannot be erased. About what? Being corpse family, corpse brother. The family who hails to bury the dead bodies or burn the dead bodies. So this is a bit confusion. It's a bit like a sort of a scary feeling which is questioning, which is going on in his thought process. Now somehow Shastri, remember, Margaya has an accountant. His name is Shastri, and he gives an idea. There are a lot of enquiries coming and going for Balu. If you allow me, if you permit me to take care of this matter, maybe I can help you out. And Margaya is pretty much pleased now. And he also goes, this Shastri, he also goes on to praise, butter, or simply praise Margaya, and Margaya is always in air now. So Margaya is sort of a person who gives consent to Shastri, and Shastri starts writing letters now. He is sending his proposals, he is sending his consent to far off places, and there are a lot of letters coming in, a lot of proposals coming in, and he also praises Margaya as uncounted lakhs, as the Lord of uncounted lakhs. That shows that how much money Margaya owned. Now this is bit again triggered in the minds of Margaya, thinking that how could my accountant Shastri knows about how much I own? Now all the time is worried about money. Throughout this novel, if you see, Margaya is only worried about finance, money, how to grow financially strong. As we progress, we get to see that Margaya, he goes beyond, he starts earning beyond his reach. Now here, he is just expecting, he's thinking, how come this accountant, ordinary account person, is he peeping through my ledger? Is he peeping through my income? So all these thoughts are going on. So after ups and downs, he gets the alliance, right? Alliance to his expectation. So who is that? It is nothing but the proposal which comes from Mempi Hills, and the girl is known as Brunda, 17 years old. Just 1 year younger to Balu. Brunda, she is the daughter of a man who owned a tea estate. This could be asked for 1 mark. Who owned tea estate in Mempi Hills, which yielded income of 10,000 rupees a year. So which is a great amount actually back then. And he goes on to say, yes, I have found my worthy status proposal. He also talks about status, alliance to his expectation. Now the proposal has come. He sends a word to Astrologer, calls for Astrologer, and he is just convincing himself. The Margaya is trying to answer his questions, and one of the questions he answers is that why should we believe what an astrologer says or what others tell? Because he believes that man is a creature who could make his own present and future. He believes that. He just sits there on the chair, he recalls about his past, how he was a sort of a broker, Margaya. He used to sit under a banyan tree and he went on to wear dirty clothes, torn clothes. And now, after struggling so much out of his hard work, he has come to such an extent where people are dumbstruck. They are like, yes, Margaya has made so much of money. How did he make it? He believes that it is out of his own mentality, out of his own hard work, out of his own planning and predicting future. That is what he believes. And he goes on to tell that now Pandit has come and Margaya is not interested to look at Pandit. And Pandit claims that, he is the one who is going to make this match. And Margaya is not bothered about the presence of Pandit at all. And Pandit just clears his throat. He just coughs a couple of times to get the attention of Margaya. And Margaya scolds Pandit now. Because Margaya is not a kind of a person who believes what Pandit says. But still, to be on a safer side, he says that, okay, let us call Pandit and let us see what or how things go. And Pandit, see if you can match the horoscope. Margaya says to Pandit, now what should Pandit do? He will take the horoscopes and he will start reading it. While Pandit is reading, going through both the horoscopes, Margaya should be worried about what here? He should be worried about whether both the horoscopes match. Rather, thinking about this, Margaya is worried how much money or how much fee will this astrologer cost me or demands. Now, what is your fee for your service? Margaya says, what is your fee for your service? And Pandit is so pissed off, he is disturbed, he is angered. He says, leave aside this service fee. Leave it aside. Let me just do my work. Let me just do my job. My job is to come here and match it. If it is possible, whether it matches or not, I am going to tell you that, but let me do my job. And he is like, let me match the alliance. Wait for it. And once Margaya waits here, Pandit says it is impossible. Sorry to say this. It is not at all possible that Balu and Brunda are going to stick together. This marriage is failed. This is a failed marriage. If you're going to get married Balu to Brunda, it's going to be a big problem. Why? Because 7th and 9th houses are not quite sound. After going through Balu's horoscope, Pandit says that 7th and 9th houses, these two are not very sound. They are not strong. They are the trouble creating houses. So you need to be careful. Don't get Balu married. Don't get Balu married to Brunda. And he says, this 7th and 9th house, they are like soap and oil. They don't come together at all. It's going to be a big problem in their lives. And Margaya now is totally angry. He is upset. He's both now. Why? Because he doesn't want to lose or give up on the proposal, on the alliance where the girl's father owns tea estate which yields 10,000 rupees a year, which is a big deal for him. Financially, looking at this prospect, this alliance, that is what is happening even today with respect to everybody. Not everybody, maybe majority of the people. Be it a groom or a bride, both the families, they look at each other's financial background, and exactly what Margaya is doing here. And he says, can't you do something? Now, Margaya is questioning Pandit, can't you do something? Can't you change, do some miracle? And Pandit is so pissed off. He says, am I Brahma? Who is Brahma? Brahma is the one who talks about life, fate. Am I a Brahma to change your fate, your life, or his life? It's not going to happen. Pandit says this, am I Brahma? It won't even happen. Don't even dream about it. So Margaya is very upset. He says, you cannot change anything. You are not a good Pandit. You are not a good astrologer. Definitely not. So what it does is, Margaya just asks Shastri to give 1 rupee fee and send off this astrologer. Now, Pandit is so angered. For doing all this, you are giving me 1 rupee fee? And Margaya rebukes. He scolds him again and says that you are not a good astrologer. Get out. For the service you are giving, you have given, this is what you deserve the most. So get lost. Next, Margaya takes up this astrology, horoscope. He takes up the horoscope. He starts reading himself. He is not able to understand anything. And he decides that, he thought of tearing it up. But he doesn't. Next, what happens? Dr. Pal, remember the person who wrote Domestic Harmony? Yes, how to be good in bed life. Dr. Pal helps Margaya to find the Pandit, and he comes to Margaya with saffron tipped paper, which he paid 75 rupees. This is very important. And from here, Dr. Pal character, the character Dr. Pal turns out to be anti-hero here. But before, he is the hero who helps Margaya, but here he is the villain. From later on, he becomes the villain in Margaya's life. So through the help of Dr. Pal, Margaya somehow gets both the horoscopes matched, and Dr. Pal comes back with saffron tipped paper, which means the alliance is done, match made, everything is fixed, which costed him the fee of 75 rupees, which will be paid by Margaya. Where is 1 rupee and where is 75 rupees? The difference of 74 rupees, and Dr. Pal made the match. And we don't know whether Dr. Pal literally went to one of the best Pandits and got it done, or he himself did it. Nowhere it is revealed. But I think it is Dr. Pal who just got it done by himself, or possibly, let us say, he went to one of the best astrologers and got it done, which costed Margaya 75 rupees now. Oh, Dr. Pal is helping Margaya, and he has helped him in a couple of occasions. So, Dr. Pal, I think you ought to make more money. It is the turn of Margaya, who is willing to help Dr. Pal in return. Dr. Pal has helped Margaya to gain the maximum profit in his life, financial profit. Now, Margaya believes that it is time to repay Dr. Pal. He says, Dr. Pal, I think you ought to make more money. I want to do you a good turn. Margaya is being very good to Dr. Pal. But he is also very cautious, because he is only trying to help him, but not trying to give him the money directly out of the profit what he has gained before. So while this is discussed, Dr. Pal says that I've given up. He has already given up writing, and he is into tourism department now. But unfortunately, to his bad luck, Dr. Pal, right, he says that people here in Malgudi and in and around, they're not fond of tourism. They don't know what it means. They're only worried about making money. Yes, and nobody cares. Dr. Pal says, just like westernized people in Western countries, there is a huge scope. He says there is huge scope in tourism, for tourism. But here, I'm just going down and down and down every day, and nobody seems to be interested in this. He also brings in the reference. Have you been to Mempi Hills, where it talks about tribes, history and archaeology? And people are not aware about any of these things. They are neither aware about tribes, nor history, nor archaeology. Foolish people. So Margaya wants Dr. Pal to prosper. Now, why is Margaya so much worried, so behind Dr. Pal? It's because of two reasons. One reason, he believes that somewhere through the lane, yes, down the lane, Margaya's instinct is telling that Dr. Pal would come back to him and ask him to share. Possibilities are high, and he is so stingy. Margaya is so stingy, he would not give even a single penny without a pang, without his heart pricking. So he doesn't want that to happen. Second thing, Dr. Pal is financially bankrupt. He is going bankrupt. And he is so sure that somehow Dr. Pal would catch hold of his son. His son, Margaya's son. Dr. Pal would catch hold of Margaya's son and he would play with him, trick with him. So he would use Balu as a weapon to demand more money. There are chances. And to be on a safer side, he wants to strike off, keep away Dr. Pal from then on, which doesn't happen. And out of all the money, he is making good money now. Margaya buys a good house in Lawless Street for Balu, and later, once he gets married, he takes Brunda now. He gets married and he takes Balu, is taking his wife Brunda to a new house. There is a scene where Brunda comes and falls on her daughter-in-law's feet, prostrate, right? Meenakshi. And as the novel progresses, it is revealed that Meenakshi has become a mother-in-law now. She is cribbing, she is crying, she is feeling bad because Balu is going to go separate. He's going to go to his new house. So Margaya comes and tells, don't show the habit of mother-in-law here. Don't try to show it. Right? Let them both live separately. So as the novel progresses, Balu and Brunda leaves to their house. They pack and they go to their new house. And Dr. Pal is a constant visitor to Balu now. Remember, I told you he wanted to cut off Dr. Pal for two reasons. Margaya. Remember, Margaya wanted to cut off. Now this is happening. Whatever he wished for is going against now. Dr. Pal has become a constant visitor, frequent visitor to Balu's house. So what is the reason behind this? Let us see it now. Dr. Pal comes back to Margaya and he says that you can make 1,000 rupees a month. Imagine 1,000 rupees a month, which is a very good amount. Now Margaya is thinking, instead of lending money, why can't somebody come and give us the money? And Dr. Pal and Margaya again patch up and they find customers to invest money so that they can get interest. So how do they do? Attract deposits rather than lending it. So very first customer, they go to his blanket merchant. Let me tell you about it. I want to do something better for a change. Now Margaya is convincing. He says, I'm tired of making money. But still, in order to change my profession, let me just do something different just for a change. Is he just gonna do it for the sake of changing job? No, he isn't. Instead, he's changing his profession, or maybe he's trying to do something new just to make more money. He's thinking about himself and he says, how come people are making so much of money? And he brings in a lot of references there. He says, there is a rice merchant who goes on to sell, who weighs less and sell it for more price, who weighs the rice for lesser amount and sells it for higher price. There is Office Glue, a company which is selling office glue to army, which gets more interest. There is a thing where they send screws and cartons which is only half filled, the boxes, carton boxes. where it is only half filled, but they believe that it is fully filled. Now, there is contractor who built huts, who got money, the great percentage. It had to last at least for 10 years or 20 years, but the huts would not even last 6 months or 1 year. But still he got great amount because nobody would question him. He would get a great percentage and share it with the people who are responsible for it. And there is drug stockist who would play with the lives of people, who would not bother to give any wrong medicine, who would make good money. And people, there are certain other people, strong people, financially strong people with export and import priority. Their priority is such that they are only worried about import and exports. They are making good money. And he strongly believes, Margaya strongly believes, people have money and all the cash must go to him. Very strong words. So this reveals, through this character, R.K. Narayan is revealing that Margaya is such a character. In and out, in his every breath, he thought about finance, about money. So next, what they do, the very first person whom they approach is Blanket Man, who happens to become Margaya's landlord. Remember the Blanket Man there? And Dr. Pal's first client. Now, Dr. Pal and Margaya, both of them have come together and they are approaching Blanket Man. Once this Blanket Man owner, the landlord, comes to visit Margaya, now Margaya questions, still no lights? Being a landlord, you should have taken care of our needs. As a landlord, you should look to our conveniences. And you're not looking at it. And somehow this Blanket Man fools around with Margaya and he tells that it is on the way, don't worry, I'm going to take care of it. And as both Margaya and Dr. Pal explained about how well they can get 20% of income, now Blanket Man is very keen and interested. So he's worried how much percentage would he get, and Margaya says interest of 20% for your investment. So how much ever you invest, you are going to get 20% of it, where bank would not give more than 3% here. Bank will not give you more than 3%, but I am going to give you 20%. How do you manage? This is the question by Blanket Man. Now he says, how are you going to manage? A bank is going to give you only 3%. Give us 3%. But you, 20%? How? Margaya says, it's none of your business. You give me how much ever money you can and let me give you 20% on what money you give me. Immediately, this Blanket Man, the owner, the landlord, he gives 5,000 rupees in cash. So what is the amount he's going to get? 20%? Imagine 5,000 rupees, 20%, which is a good amount of interest. So I have to dispose. Now he gives and he goes. Who? Blanket Man. On the way he is convincing, he is telling himself, he says, I have to dispose of 100 blankets a day if I have to make that money. Which money? The interest money. 20%? 1,000 rupees. He says, in order to get that, I have to dispose how many? 100 blankets a day, which is not an easy task. And he says, it's good that I gave the money. So Margaya, the wizard, everybody start calling him Margaya the wizard. And Margaya also promises this Blanket Man, the landlord, Guru Raj, his name is Guru Raj, that you can go to bank every month. He gives the receipt and he sends off that he has given. Now all of a sudden, people start to call Margaya the wizard. Why? Because there are plenty of people who are coming and investing in Margaya's scheme. What is the scheme? He's going to give 20% interest on how much ever the money they give. And they start calling, how do they manage? And how is he going to give us 20%? And somehow he does, and people start calling Margaya the wizard. The people believed he made money through shipments arriving at Madras port or Bombay. Now, how could he do it just sitting at home? It is not possible. Sitting in his office, not possible. there might be second source of income or other source of income, and he is getting money through some imports. Where? From Madras or from Bombay. Now Margaya is telling there are a lot of people every day, they come and invest, and this is what strikes Margaya. If I get 20,000 rupees deposit each day, 20,000 rupees, it is not 20 rupees, 20,000 rupees deposit each day and pay 15 in interest, I have still 5,000 a day left in my hands as my own. This is what he's thinking about. It is just like it's going to double. And how much does he earn? 5,000 a day, which is not a easy money, which is a big deal actually. So that's it for today's session. I'm going to meet you in my next session. In my next session, I'm going to talk about chapter 5. Of course, I remember telling in my previous session that I would be clubbing chapter 4 and 5, which I didn't do, which I didn't want, because I want my students to go through, understand each and every minute detail. So I have just made 2 separate sessions. Session 4, I have discussed chapter 4, and in session 5, next session, I'm going to discuss about chapter 5, the very last chapter. I'm going to meet you in my next session. Until then, keep reading. Have a good day. Take care.